the Menendez brothers will start the parole hearing process this week. We'll speak with the criminal defense attorney to further discuss the latest on their chances at freedom. Good morning, San Diego. 7 a.m. hour starts right now.
Live from San Diego, this is KUSI News.
Happening this morning, the Menendez brothers start the parole hearing process. This is the closest Lyle or Erik have been to freedom since their conviction for murdering their parents some 30 years ago. The brothers become eligible for parole back in May when a judge reduced their sentence. A panel of parole board officers will evaluate each of them separately. Lyle on Thursday, Erik on Friday. If granted, the case would then go to the chief legal counsel and lastly to the governor's desk. Joining me now to further discuss the upcoming hearing and what the future could hold for the Menendez brothers is none other than criminal defense attorney Vikas Bajaj. Vic, welcome back to the big show.
Thank you, sir.
All right, it was months ago, maybe, certainly weeks ago, where you said these guys are going to get out. Do you stick by that?
I do. The pieces have moved to create that mosaic of an eventual release. If it weren't that way, then we wouldn't have the judge, for instance, take note of the youthful offender programs that were essentially amended the last time in 2018. Now, these things are pivotal in this case because they allow a court to say if you're younger than 26 years old, you should never have life without parole. Even indeterminate sentences, which, Paul, as we know, are something to life, are off the table. You should be released if you can make the proper showing at a parole board hearing, and that's where we are now. So if the law is going to be consistent and if the movements are what we think they are, they will be released shortly.
Tell me about it. Teach me about your world. How much backdoor conversations are having? How much of this is just baked into the cake already and everybody, we know the plan is now, it's just a matter of who is going to be the one that's going to go out in front of the public and say these guys are going to get out of jail?
That's very interesting because if we look at the history of how this has developed for their early release, or at least not to have their life in prison, it starts really at an election. So it's really much less about a defense attorney, but it's more about a politician, because let's not forget Gascon was running for re-election.
But do those two worlds collide?
Absolutely, because politicians are after one thing, and that is to curry the favor of the voting public. Prosecutors should be out there protecting the public, but they are also elected. So you have a union of gold to appease who you believe will be the most forceful amount of voters. And that's why we saw this issue really come to the forefront when Gascon was running for re-election. So are there conversations, as we say, behind back doors? Yes, but I would hope that they are legal and transparent. Defense attorneys often talk to the prosecutors in charge. And in this case, that is the DA. At that time, Gascon, and now we have Nathan Hochman.
I know there was a movement afoot to get them out of prison a while back, but how much did that Netflix documentary affect public opinion and affect other people as far as who are going to be making the decision to let them out?
It's enormous. You know, it always surprises me that it'd be hard to have the younger generation read, for instance, a newspaper or things on the internet that are truthful and factual. But it's very easy to get the voting public to watch a drama on Netflix, and there is an influence to the voters at that point. So yes, it had tremendous effect.
And I guess that's where I have trouble. A documentary on Netflix should not affect something like this, where there are people are dead. I mean, no one's going to bring the Menendez's family back to life.
Well, that's true, but maybe that's you and I aging ourselves.
Perhaps. I tell you what would really be unsettling is if these guys get out and then are able to then capitalize on all that for financial gain.
And they will. I think anyone can predict there'll be a mini-series or even another documentary where they are compensated for things like this. But the point of the matter is not what they're going to get out of this. The point of the matter is, what is the state of the law? And the state of the law says very clearly that if you're under 26 when the crime is committed, you should be given the opportunity for release. Now, it's going to come down to whether they show remorse, whether the board says, you know, I believe you, Kyle and Erik, that you are sorry for this crime, regardless of how it happened or why it happened. We want to see you take responsibility. A defendant or an inmate who takes responsibility has a direct correlation to a lack of recidivism, meaning we can't expect future crimes from these people, and that is the standard here, whether the community can be safe, granted, if they are released.
Any chance, you say you're a governor who has presidential aspirations, is there any chance that maybe you don't want to have this taint on you, perhaps that just sits on your desk for a while until you're out of office?
Absolutely. You know, the governor in this case can sit on his laurels and say, hey, I'm not going to do anything. If he does that, and if the board says we're going to grant release for both of these inmates, and if legal counsel for the parole board says, yes, I'm going to bless that decision, the governor can sit and do nothing for 30 days, and that decision becomes final. That may be the most strategic, powerful position he can find himself in.
Last question. Are they going to be out in time for Christmas?
Hard to tell, but the timeline, it seems like yes, in my opinion. I think more money would be on the side of early release before the new year.
Christmas or Thanksgiving?
I'd say Christmas. If you're pushing me to guess, I'd say Christmas, but I don't have a crystal ball.
Thanks for rolling in.
Thank you, Paul.